All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Welcome to the April 2025 edition of the AKS Community Call. We're glad to see you and that you've joined. We got a really good agenda today. And but before we get started, just a little of the housekeeping items here. Again, just recognize this call will be recorded. So the next slide here will go into the Microsoft Code of Conduct, but just be polite to people. Again, we will allow you to ask questions toward the end. So we will you'll be able to unmute your mics and have a discussion. And again, just follow the Code of Conduct there, and you'll be fine. So again, Code of Conduct, just be on your best behavior. So I think everyone should be used to this by now. And with that, here's going to be our agenda. Really, we got a nice packed agenda here. We have Corey joining us. She's going to talk about some highlights for upcoming build 2025. And then she'll also talk about AKS Labs and the Microsoft Reactor. After that, I attended the MVP Summit maybe 3 weeks ago up in Redmond. And hello to those that I met. Pretty exciting event, and I was glad to be there. So we're going to discuss some of the wrap up there on the sessions that we had, and we actually got a video of some of the MVPs that I got a chance to meet and interview. So we'll play that video, and you can kind of hear their perspective of the program. After that, we're going to celebrate our content winner. So this will be the April 2025 content winner, and again, keep those submissions coming in. We love kind of like ranking this and really diving into the content. We're getting some excellent content. So again, if you want to be considered as a winner, send us your content and we'll evaluate it and hopefully we'll present you on this call. And then I'm super excited. Chase is here. He won't actually be presenting, but Chase was gracious enough to give us a recording of what he would have done anyway, and he is on the call. So if there are any questions, he's going to be showing off the API VNet integration for AKS, and so he is here via messaging, and so if there are any questions, he should be able to tackle that. And then after we hear about the API VNet integration, we'll go into the quick roadmap highlights. Not a lot is happening, but we do got some key GA items that we want to talk about. And then some of the upcoming kind of preview features that we want to make sure that you're aware of. And then with that, we're going to open up the floor and have a nice QA discussion with everyone. So with that, let's get into it. And I will hand this over to Corey. Take it away.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, folks. So a couple of events that we have coming up where AKS will be featured, and we would love to see the community involved. We have Microsoft Build, our flagship developer conference that's coming up the week of May 19th to 22nd. For folks in, sorry, I have a toddler kind of engaging in this as well right now. For folks that, yeah, future MVP. She's already on 50 books. For folks that are in Canada, recognize that May 19th is a holiday, so we've already flagged that. Okay. We're not cooperating right now. So the registration link can be done at build.microsoft.com. For that, if you want to jump to the next slide.
Yep, I gotcha.
We also have a new live lab series that are starting on Tuesday, May 13th, so just before that Microsoft Build event. So these labs are going to run through Microsoft Reactor, and they'll be from
we understand,
from
Corey.
8 to 9 a.m. Pacific, and you can register at the link below. And I'm gonna take this one. I'm so sorry.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Corey. And you know, that's a testament to work-life balance here at Microsoft. But thank you. If there's any more questions about that, feel free to post into the chat about Build 2025 and or the labs on Microsoft Reactor, and I think Corey can be able to answer those questions for you. All right, next up. So MVP Summit 2025, again, I was there along with Brendan Burns and Sean McKenna. We don't have a good picture of him. He was actually in one of the larger spaces there, so the camera was furthest away from him. But we had 3 sessions there. Brendan kicked off the state of open source, really good discussion around where open source is going, how to leverage it, et cetera. So again, if you are an MVP, you have access to these videos, and that's another reason that you may want to strive to be an MVP. Sean did an awesome deep dive on the future of AKS. A lot of stuff that I can't share here that is NDA for the MVPs. Those that watched it know there was some pretty cool stuff happening at the end of that. And we're excited about some of the upcoming features that AKS is going to have. And then finally, I did the Level Up Your Brand with AKS. And this was a real heart-to-heart session that we had with all the MVPs in our technology area. And we talked about really building this relationship. And, I'm just posting here kind of the mission statement that we shared, which is, ultimately we want MVPs to be really enthusiastic about the platform and essentially become an extension of the product group. So myself and also Sagoon from the marketing team presented at this, and we were showcasing a lot of the efforts that marketing is going to be able to do for MVPs as far as amplifying your own like meetups, where events and coordinating you and possibly getting you into the agenda of a lot of events worldwide. So exciting stuff is happening in the MVP camp. So again, if you are creating great content and you're a proponent for the platform, it just kind of makes sense that you can submit to become an MVP. Next, so here's a quick video. Again, I'm an amateur interviewer, but definitely want to highlight several of the MVPs that I had a chance to talk to, and you can kind of hear from their perspective of what the MVP program means to them. So let's go ahead and hopefully this plays for us.
All right, hello everyone. We are here at MVP Summit 2025. How do you feel about the MVP program?
Absolutely, it's a great program, and it's a direct jump start to the product groups like you. It's exactly this type of the interaction which we need, like direct connection to the product groups, the participation in the private previews, and discussion about the bugs.
This thing is good. Meet the product teams, actually shaping the products into the future is what I think is good. We can give direct feedback to the product groups.
Nice.
That's kind of the real benefits, I would say. We meet once a year, basically, the MVP guys and girls.
When you talk about Azure MVPs, we have a room full of best people on Azure around the world in one place. So the collective knowledge that you gain from this experience is untangible. But when you are MVP, you also have to take a step up and make sure that you are always learning, growing, and sharing your knowledge with others.
I think the perks of being an MVP, they're actually really, really nice.
Okay,
so
nice.
you get to obviously meet like-minded people in MVP Summit, in other places. You get to learn a lot, both from content from Microsoft directly or under NDA content. This was really super nice. You get a little sneak peek, and then you get credits as well for running your Azure.
I just heard about this, and I was blown away. $12,000 a year Azure credits. I mean, that's
good. It's a good amount.
That alone is worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So again, thanks to those that took some time out of their day to come chat with me and do those interviews. And then also, those interviews are not just for those who attended. If you want to be on one of these interviews, we can actually do those remote. And we are actually looking at creating a MVP spotlight type of segment on the YouTube channel for AKS. So if that seems exciting to you and you want to get involved, reach out to us and let us know. But that is specifically for MVP. So you do have to become an MVP for us to do that. All right. Next, exciting stuff. content winner for April 2025 for the US and North America. Just to let people know, there will be content winners for the other meeting, which is the APAC in Australia and New Zealand. So, we would like to localize those as well. But so this is specifically for this call here. And again, I just wanted to highlight here, as you see there up on the right there is, again, once you become an MVP, you actually get $12,000 credit to run Azure per year. And I'm assuming that's the same number in all local currencies, however that translates out. But that's a huge perk, to be able for you to be able to do your demos and showcase the platform. All right, without further ado, the winner for the April 2025 content winner is Jürgen Alevin. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Jürgen sent this in, and what's interesting, I was kind of just socially stalking you, Jürgen, and he has a really nice Chronicles, blog that he's doing. So he goes through a lot of stuff. We specifically were looking at the networking using eBPF, and the topics that he really gets into that really impressed us was he gave a really simplistic view on how eBPF works, how to configure it using AKS, and then also he had several scenarios where he was showing some of the Cilium configuration policies. So again, great work there, Jürgen. We appreciate it. And again, if you're aspiring to be an MVP, just take a look at all the people who are winning these monthly content spotlights and look at what they're doing. That's the level of content that you should be creating if you aspire to be an MVP. So again, thank you, Jürgen, for that. All right, next up, we'll talk about deprecations, retirements. We actually don't have anything this time around for this month, so nothing to report on deprecations and or retirements. And with that said, again, Chase was with us in chat, but he was nice enough to give us a video. And so I'll introduce Chase. He's a senior product manager here with AKS in the product group. And Chase owns a lot of the networking features. Therefore, he'll be talking about the API, the VNet integration here. And no further ado, let's go ahead and play Chase's video where he shows off API VNet integration.
Hello everyone, my name is Chase. I'm a PM on the AKS team. I focus primarily on networking, and that's why I'm here today to talk to you about a long-awaited feature that is not new, but it has been coming out for a long time. Hopefully we're hitting GA, and that is API server VNet integration. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry, we're going to give an overview, and we'll also give a little demo. If you do know about it, then hopefully you'll enjoy this as a little refresher and get ready for the coming GA. Okay, to start this off, we're going to run a couple of commands just to kick it off, and then we'll go into an overview. All right, so I cheated a little bit, and we actually already have one cluster created. This is not an API server VNet integration enabled cluster. It's just a private cluster, and I'm going to create two clusters right now, one of them being an API server VNet integration cluster. Create name test2 group test, and it is also going to be a private cluster. All right, so we're going to kick one of those off. All right, and we're also going to create just one completely basic cluster. So now that we have those clusters started, we're actually going to take a step back, cover some basics, and talk about what API server VNet integration is. The first thing I want to cover is a public and private cluster because it's going to come up here and make sure everyone's on the same page. First off, a public and a private cluster don't mean that you're like either completely accessible or cut off. In AKS, a public or private cluster is talking about how you or your nodes and pods are going to access your API server. So for a public cluster, you're actually accessing the API server over a public endpoint. Now, this doesn't mean it's completely open. You can cut it off. You can restrict it to certain IP address ranges, things like that. So there are ways to restrict it, or a private cluster. And a private cluster uses PLS and private endpoints to connect to the API server. Now we're going to actually take a look here and see what that looks like in a diagram real quick. So you can see your AKS cluster boundary right here. Now in a normal cluster, this is not API server VNet integration enabled. I am going to get really good at saying that. This is a, within a normal setup here, you actually have two VNets. The first one is yours. This is your cluster VNet. And within this VNet, you have your pods, your nodes going on and all that. And you actually have a second Microsoft owned and managed VNet right here. And that's the API server, where the API server lives. Now communication happens over either a private endpoint or a public endpoint. And now it's either using PLS, private link service, or it's not using anything. Okay, I have to correct myself here real quick. When you're going over a public endpoint, there still is connectivity tunnel. It's not NATA. Connectivity tunnel is done away with API server VNet integration, but it's still there. So forget the NATA, that's incorrect. So all traffic coming out of here and going to your API server, or you reaching out to your API server, is going to be over these connection points right here. Now this is opposed to an API server VNet integration enabled cluster. You have the same cluster boundary. You have one single VNet, and instead of seeing these two VNets, you have two subnets. The first one is going to have your nodes, so you have your node subnet holding all your pods and nodes. Now, as you'll notice here, it's a little bit simpler. You have no PLS and you don't have a public endpoint. This is only for node traffic and pod traffic, but if you're reaching over it, you're still going to be reaching out to it over a public endpoint. But here, you can see the secondary subnet right here where API server lives. You can see traffic going here, and instead of traversing over a public endpoint, and even though it's over a public endpoint in the private cluster, it's still in the Microsoft backbone. So don't worry, it's not like it's going out, traversing the internet or anything. It's still within the Microsoft background or backbone. But in this case, you don't even have to worry about all this traffic going there. There's a couple of scenarios where that's really useful. One, it's more secure. Two, within an NSG or within a VNet, you can use NSGs to restrict traffic, and I'm always like that. Now also, if you get your cluster to scale and you require something like NAT Gateway has a funny way of working, maybe not a funny way of working, but all traffic in this scenario, with the exception of private endpoints. So let's say you have a public endpoint or a public cluster, and you're using NAT Gateway. All traffic going to your API server, so all node traffic going to your API server, will traverse the public endpoint. And with that, it will be charged as NAT Gateway public traffic. With this moves around that entirely. That's no longer traversing NAT Gateway. That's not getting natted that way or anything like that. And you don't have to worry about extra cost or anything that way. So we've gone over the diagram, and now we're going to give a little bit of a demo just to see what this looks like in practice. So here you can see that we have the MC test group, which is where your VNets are going to live. So we're going to take a look at this one, and we're going to take a look at the VNet in here. All right, now this is a nifty little tool, and you're going to see the topology of your VNet right here. You can see you have the VNet, you have your AKS subnet, and within this you see your node pools, but you also see a couple other things. You see your private endpoint right here, and you see this NIC here where the interface is. You can see the private IP assigned to connect to your Kube API server. This doesn't mean that your API server is living here. It's just reflective that it's connected to the API server, but it's actually everything is traversing over this private endpoint right here. Now, let's take a look at the other one. Okay, so for the second one, we're going to look at test 2. And in test 2, this one is API server VNet integration enabled. And let's take a look at this VNet. This is also a private cluster. So as you can see, you have your AKS VNet here just as well. You still have an AKS subnet with your node spool living here. Remember, this is API server VNet integration enabled. Now you suddenly have an AKS API server subnet of 10.226 and a /28, so giving you 16 IP addresses. This is where your API server is. Unlike the other one, this doesn't go over a private endpoint. You can see this is a private cluster, but it's no longer traversing that way. It has its own dedicated subnet right here. Now, we're going to take a look at a normal cluster. So completely basic, not private, it's public, and no API server VNet integration enabled at all. Now you can see the AKS subnet in the VNet, node pools right here, and just go out completely. So you're only reaching out through a public endpoint. You don't see any API server VNet or anything like that, which means that you're not going to have, it's going to still hit the public endpoint, stay within Microsoft's backbone, but still hitting that point. for any node traffic. Okay, now you could just take my word for it, but we're actually going to run some commands to verify that traffic from a pod is going to resolve to an API server, or how it's going to resolve to that. So in the command above, I got some of our FQDNs for our API servers, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a pod and get it running in here. And we're going to verify that this pod resolves to the API server and then see where it gets it from. All right, we have our pod created, and now we're going to run our test. So as you can see, we have DNS utils, and we're going to look up that first FQDN to see how it resolves to our API server. There we go. Okay, so now this is the address that resolves to. And if you'll remember that, scroll down here, and you can see 10.224.0.4. This is the exact one that we're getting here. So we're hitting that private endpoint, which is great. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, now we're going to test this out on another one. So for the next one, we have to do the same thing. We've got to create a pod over in our test group 2. Still going to keep this up, keep it running. Normally you should clean up your resources. This isn't good habits, but that's okay. All right, we've got our pod started and ready. Should be ready to go now. So what I'm going to do, we're going to run this same thing again, but with the updated FQDN, and this should resolve to the private IP. All right, so we've got our test back, and now we resolve to 10.226.0.4. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this one here. We're back in our updated the test 2. This is the VNet here. And let's zoom in just a little bit here. AKS VNet as a whole. This subnet right here is the virtual network. That's not it. Subnet here. You can see 10.224.0.0/16. That doesn't line up with the one right there. However, when we go over to this little guy right here, now we hit 10.226.0.0 and a /28. Just confirming, we are back right here with 10.226.0.4. Ooh, quite a mouthful. Probably from saying API server VNet integration too many times. With that, you can see that you're resolving correctly into your API server, either through the public endpoint, private endpoint, or an API server VNet integration directly into the same VNet from a different subnet, which is awesome. With that, thank you all very much. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little something, and can't wait to get your feedback. Thanks, and have a good one.
Awesome. Thanks for providing that, Chase. By the way, that was all AI. That's this new PM demo model that we're using. No, I'm just joking. So Chase is in the chat. And again, if you got questions for Chase, you can add those to the chat. Next, I'm going to go through some of the board. And again, we will leave the end of this call open to Q&A. So you can either ask those questions live with Chase, or if you got any other subjects that you want to chat about, feel free to discuss those then. All right, typical disclaimer. Again, these are best estimates, time, all of that stuff. And I think we've been pretty close to a lot of the things that we've been presenting here. So just be aware that, again, things can change. This is software that we're dealing with. Okay, so what we have for the GA is we have the Azure Linux 3.0 support. So that is now GA. And one thing to note is if you do an upgrade to the latest version available, your nodes will get upgraded to Azure Linux 3.0. And so if you want to test out your workloads prior to that, you may want to go ahead and deploy 1.31 Kubernetes version. That will give you Azure Linux 3.0, but you'll at least be able to test your workloads and not be, if you do an upgrade and then not be caught off guard with testing. Next, we have the cost optimization recommendation. So this is nice. This is going to look at your cluster and possibly make some recommendations, such as, hey, maybe you need vertical pod autoscaler, et cetera. So that is out in GA. Next, we have the Kata got a version bump, so it goes up to 2.16. and that's on the AKS version 1.32. I don't think there was any breaking changes, but you may just want to test that out if you're using scale sets in Kata, just to make sure things are working. After that, we got the FIPS and the ARM64 is now available with Azure Linux 3.0. So those were kind of binded together. So those are available now in GA. Next, we have the AKS Node Subnet eBPF data plane. So AKS currently does support obviously the data plane, CNI overlay, and the pod subnet. This functionality will add the eBPF to the node subnet. So again, you can use some eBPF pretty much in the whole networking stack there. Currently, right now, this is for only new deployments. So if you've got an existing cluster, you can't upgrade yet, but in the future, we will enable the upgrade option so you can have everything in place and move over to it. Let's see, we have the Azure Cilium CNA overlay dual stack support. So that's all GA, both IPv4 and v6 is available for you to push the workloads. We also have the configure the app routing ingress with a private load balancer that is out there able for you to do that during the creation of the cluster as well. So that's all GA. Let's see, just wrapping up, obviously we have the Kubernetes version 1.28, so that's LTS. And there's going to be some more things that we're going to discuss about LTS closer to build. I won't steal that thunder, but there's going to be some things around other versions of support that will fall under LTS. So be on the lookout for those announcements here soon. And then lastly, we have the AKS Security Bulletin and the CVE mitigation status. So no longer do you have to kind of search the items, the work items, and kind of figure out, where the mitigations are. We actually have a site, and I will actually throw this site in the chat here. If I get going. Or I'll follow up. I don't have that readily available. I'm just going to show that off. Okay, I'll come back to that because I don't want to mess up the presentation there. But that's all our GA items. And then if we move to the public preview, we have the fleet. So it'll allow the user to drain a cluster for all the resources. So again, this will allow you to only remove resources that were kind of propagated by fleet, and they won't kind of disrupt anything else. And so that's in public preview. This has been in public preview for a minute. Skip the GPU driver installation. This is still on track for, I think, possibly the end of this month. I think that's the case. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have any notes. Apologies on that, but yeah, I think this is tracking at the end of this month. Next, we have the auto configured system node pool SKU in AKS Automatic. We've been mentioning this probably the last 2 or 3 of these. And so again, we're highlighting this because this is still work in progress, and we do hope to have this land in H2. So get Q3, Q4 of this calendar year. You should see this land, as well as the max unavailable settings for upgrades. That is actually not that far away. This is probably going to be a Q2, Q3 timeframe as that moves over to GA. The install custom CA truss on AKS nodes. This is tracking at the end of this month. So this is very, very close to happening here. Next, we have the AKS Communication Manager. Again, that is similar to the CA Trust, so that's at the end of this month as well. We should see that move to GA. And let's see, we got these last couple here. The AKS support to outbound types, none in block. We will have the none portion of that feature happening at the end of this month. Block will come a little later for you to be able to use that in the rule. And these last couple here, deployment safeguards, that's probably still a Q3 this calendar year. and that's where that's tracking. The pod sandboxing, that's again probably in the next 3 months. So again, Q3, possibly Q4, but hopefully we can get that in Q3. And then the last one here, I think we're missing one, but yeah, Carpenter, end of this month, we're tracking on that. And then one that's not here is actually Cato, so the AI tool operator. That is looking more at the May timeframe. And again, you can click a link to the roadmap and where we have all of this notes on these updated. All right, so I think that's all we have. The in progress, there was nothing really major to talk about, so we didn't want to bore anybody about any of that. So we're kind of just status quo for everything in progress. Again, those are the much longer out items that we're working on, but no significant traction on any of those that we want to let anyone know about. And that's it. That's all we have. Again, we'd like to keep that roadmap portion of this just super slim and not bore you too much with the hundreds of items on the board. And with that, we are at the Q&A portion of this. And if you have any questions, I believe you can come off of your mute, and hopefully we can give you an answer. And if you want to ask a question, if you just mind raising your hand so we can just look at the queue, and then we can target you and go from there. All right, we have Steve. Steve has a question.
Hey, hello from the UK.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I put it in the chat as well. Any news on private network support? Private cluster support for AKS Auto and Node Auto Provisioner? Because we use only private clusters, so we're blocked at the moment.
That's probably best suited for Chase. Chase, are you able to answer that? Or I don't know, Brian, you got your hand up. I'm not sure if you're trying to chime in.
Yeah, I could chime in at least for Node Auto Provision, because that's going to be GA here very shortly. It will GA not supporting private clusters, unfortunately. So that will come shortly after. I wish I had a better idea on timeline. I don't really at the moment. But yeah, that will GA first without it.
Will that go into the GA automatically, or there'll be like a? Will it be? Or we have to wait for it to go into the GA version? Like, do you know what I mean? Will the private cluster support go GA as soon as it's ready, if you know what I mean?
There may actually be even a preview, like just like any of the features we have, something like Node Auto Provision goes GA, and then we start to do additional functionality for it and end up adding things in preview state. So I mean, there will be a moment where it goes GA, but I'm not really sure if it's going to need much time or not. I actually think from that standpoint, AKS Automatic, it probably has dependencies on things like NAP and some other things like that. And so private cluster support around AKS Auto, I'm not sure because that one's a little further away on the GA timeline. We did add custom VNet support to Automatic, which you may have seen, but not private, purely private cluster.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks for the update.
Yeah, thanks for the question there. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, we got Justin. Go for it, Justin.
Hey everyone, appreciate the time. I was wondering if there will be an update to AKS architecture for PCI 4.0. Right now I'm looking at the docs. I think it's still version 3 something. Just wondering, with all the new cool features coming out with AKS, it'd be nice to have a reference architecture.
Yeah, I can answer that because I'm actually working with that team. So yeah, we are looking to, we're actively refreshing those docs now. I don't have a time frame I can give you, but it is in the works. So I may, next call, I may just call it out and let you know. But yeah, we are actually working on refreshing those docs.
Thank you for that. I think we're doing some pretty cool stuff over here with AKS and Azure Payment HSM. So looking forward to seeing anything new.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, ping me as well. But yeah, we do know, yeah, there's been some updates on the PCI stuff, and we are refreshing that. And if there's anything that like currently that you see deficient in the docs, or something that we should be covering, let us know, and we'll make sure that we include that during the refresh.
Cool. Thank you, Phil.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else? Any comments, questions, statements? It's pretty much an open floor. Okay, going once. Okay, yeah, we don't have to hang out. If there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and close the call. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here. Remember, if you are in the APAC time zone and/or Australia, New Zealand, this call will happen a week from today, and that'll be led by our PM, Simon. And with that, again, if there's no other questions, we will go ahead and end this call. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. And this recording will be available. So if you did miss it, or if you want to rewatch it, you'll be able to stream this shortly. Thank you all. Have a good day.